Hi there, my name is Ryan. So in this video I'm going to be giving you an overview of 4 different functions you can use to return data points from a dataset in Microsoft Excel. So just a few things up front. I'm using Microsoft Office 2016. I have a PC and I'm running Windows 10. If you are using a different version of Microsoft Excel, or if you are on a Mac or have a different operating system, things might look a little bit different for you, but generally this tutorial should still work. So let's get started. So the first way that you can reference data in Excel are just direct references. So these are when you would type in equals and then put in a cell reference and have whatever's in the cell that you're referencing pop up. So let me show you an example of that. So if we wanted cell D4 to show whatever is in cell B4, we can type equals, and then we can either click on direct references or we can use our arrow keys to navigate to direct references. But we should see equals B4 pop up here, and we press enter, and then whatever is in cell B4 will now be in cell D10, or sorry, D4. So the next thing I want to talk about is an index function. So this is a little more involved. But an index function lets you look at an entire data set and choose which row within that data set you want to return and which column within that data set you want to return. And the value that comes out of the index formula is going to be the intersection of the row and column that you've chosen. So let me show you an example of that. If we move here. So here we have a data set of salespeople, the region that they sell in, and their sales by quarter, along with their total sales for the year. So that's what you see here in this data set. And so now what we want to do is we want to return what the sales were for the salesperson in this column and this quarter, just as a couple of examples. So if we want to know Harry's sales in quarter 3 of 2019, and we want to use an index function. So let's build that out. So for the index function, we do equals index, and we open our parentheses. And so the first argument here is the array. And so the array is the full data set that you want to reference. And so we're going to highlight our entire array here. And then I'm going to lock those cells with F4. And then we press a comma. And the next argument is the row number. So this tells me within our data set which row do you want to return. And so the row is going to be, there's the title row, then there's the row for Harry, the row for Ron, the row for Hermione, etc. So we want to find Harry, and so we can see that Harry is in row number 1, 2. So here for row number, we would type a 2. Then we press comma, and our last argument is the column number. So we're looking for quarter 3, and so the columns are everything underneath these headings. So salesperson, region, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. And so the column number that we want to return is column number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because column 5 is quarter 3. So we type a 5, and then we can close our parentheses and press enter. And so we've returned a 500 with our formula, and Harry's sales in quarter 3 are 500. So let's do another example with Neville. So we want to find out Neville's total sales for 2019. So let's do an index function equals index, the array that we want, and I'm going to actually use my arrow keys because it's a little bit faster. So the array we want is the entire table. Our row number is Neville is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our row number is 7. And our column number for total is column number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we close our parentheses, we press enter. So we've got 3,641 for Neville. Neville in his total for the year is 3,641. And then lastly, I want to show you returning a text string. So it works the exact same way, but here we want to find out what region Draco sells in. So we'll do index equals index, Our array, again, is this entire table. We'll lock that. Our row number is going to be Draco, so we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And our column number, because we want the region, is column number 1, 2. We close our parentheses, press enter, and Draco sells in the southwest region, which is returned here. So that's the index function. It's very dynamic, lets you choose exactly where in the data set you want to return your data. The next thing I want to show you is the offset function. So the offset function chooses a starting point in a data set, and then the rest of the arguments in the formula tell Excel how many rows you want to move down from your starting point and how many columns you want to move to the right from your starting point. So let me show you an example of that. So moving back to our data set here, if we wanted to again return Harry's sales for quarter 3, so we would use our offset formula, equals offset, we open parentheses. Our reference point is going to be our starting point. So I like to use the very top left of my data set as the starting point. So I'm going to click on just the cell for the very top left of my data set, and I'm going to lock that. And then I need to know how many rows I want to move down from salesperson. And so here we're looking for Harry, and Harry is only 1 row down from salesperson. So salesperson to Harry, 1 row. So we'll put in 1 for our formula, and then a comma, and then we want to know how many columns we need to move to the right from our reference point. So we're looking for quarter 3 sales, so we need to move 1, 2, 3, 4 columns to the right. So we'll type in a 4, we'll close our parentheses and press enter, and again we've returned that Harry had $500,000 of sales in Q3. So let's do this again for these other 2 examples. So for Neville's total, we do equals offset. Again, let's pick our salesperson as our starting point. How many rows do we want to move down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then comma, and how many columns do we want to move over for total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we close our parentheses, enter. And then lastly, Draco's region. So let's do our equals offset. Let's start with salesperson. 4. How many rows down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And for the region, we only want to move 1 column to the right. So we have 1. Close our parentheses and enter. So that's the offset function. The next function I want to show you is VLOOKUP. So VLOOKUP lets you find a value in rows of a data set and then return something from a column that you specify. So let me show you with our example data set how that would work. So here, if we want to look up Harry's quarter 3 sales again, we would type in equals VLOOKUP. And the lookup value, so this is going to be the thing that we want to find in our data set. And so the thing we want to find, the row that we want to find, is the row that has Harry in it. So we're going to actually click on Harry here because that's going to be our lookup value. And then we'll do a comma. Our table array, so this one's going to be different from the index function. I'm actually only going to select the data part of my data set. I'm not going to select my titles. So this is all of the data in my data set. And I'm actually going to lock that. And then I'll do a comma. And then this one's a column index number. So this is the number of columns that I have to go to the right to find quarter 3. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5. So Q3 is column 5. So we'll type a 5. And the last argument here is the range lookup. So Excel has 2 options for this. The first is true, and this is going to tell Excel that it wants to find, if it can't find an exact match, it wants to find an approximate match for the variable you're looking up, which would be Harry. You typically only want to use true if you're looking up numbers. The true option doesn't work very well with text. Excel gets a little bit confused there. So if you're ever looking up text strings, you definitely want to have an exact match. So here we want to put in false because we want an exact match. And we'll close our parentheses and we hit enter, and we have Harry's Q3 sales are 500. So let's do this again for Neville. So we have equals VLOOKUP, and I open my parentheses. So our lookup value is going to be Neville. Our table array, again, is going to be only our data. Our column index number, because we want total, is going to be column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And our range lookup is going to be false because we want the exact match. And then let's do this finally with Draco's region equals VLOOKUP. We want to look up Draco, and we want, this is our table region, table array. Our column index number for region is column 1, 2, so we'll type a 2, and we want an exact match. Turn southwest. So that's the VLOOKUP formula. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to make these a little bit more dynamic. So we're going to use a match function, and we're going to nest that inside of the index, offset, and VLOOKUP formulas. So the match function finds a value that you're looking for inside of an array and returns the position of the value you're looking for in that array. So let me show you that with our example data set. So if, for example, I were looking for Hermione in my data set, if I chose this as my entire range of data and I told Excel in the match function to look for Hermione, I would expect Excel to return that the match would be 4 because Hermione is in the 1, 2, 3, 4th position of this array. So let's show that in practice. So let's make our index function. And this is going to be the same as before, so our array is going to be the entire data set, and I'm going to lock that. Our row number, so this is where our match function is going to come in. So here, because Excel knows that we're typing formulas, we can just type match. We don't need to use the equal sign again. So we'll type match. The thing we want to look up is Hermione, so we'll put Hermione in there. Our lookup array here, because we want to return which row number of our original array for the index we want to return. Our lookup array here is going to be this column. And I'm going to lock that. And then our match type, so here, very similar to the VLOOKUP, we want an exact match because we're looking up text. And here we don't use true and false, we use 1, 0, and -1. So 0 is our exact match here. Let's close our parentheses. And then we can move on to the column number for our index function. So the column number, we can use a match function again. So we'll use match. And we want to look up the Q1 column. That's our lookup value. Our lookup array is going to be our entire header of this. I'm going to lock that. And again, our match type, we want an exact match. And so I can close the match function, and then I can use the close parentheses for our index function. And I press enter, and this shows me that Hermione in Q1 had 321 in sales. So the reason these match functions are useful is in these functions, we had numbers that we had to put in. We had the 2 for the row number, the 5 for the column number. And then the one below, we had a 7 for the row number, 7 for the column number. Here, because I've locked everything, if I now copy this and paste it down, my formula is dynamic. So this tells me that Pansy's total is 2414, and Jenny's Q4 is 579. So the match function just makes your index function very dynamic and easy to copy down, so you're not counting out rows and columns. So let's show this with the offset function as well. So we would do equals offset. Our starting point, again, is going to be the salesperson. For our rows, we want to do match. If I can spell. We want to look up Hermione. Our lookup array, because match tells us how many places we want to move down from salesperson, is going to start at Harry and not include salesperson, because if we were looking up Harry, we would want this to return 1 because we want to move 1 row down from salesperson. So we only highlight everything below salesperson here. And then our match type, we want an exact match. And then for our columns, so we want to match Q1 in this range. Lock that. We want an exact match. We close our match function and we close our offset function and press enter. And then because this is also dynamic, we can just copy this down. And so lastly, I want to show you VLOOKUP with the max function. So equals VLOOKUP. So our lookup value is already going to be dynamic because we're not putting in a row number here. We're just putting in that we want to look up Hermione. And then we have our table array. Our table array is going to be just our data. And then our column index number, this is where our match function is going to come in. So we do match. And we want to look up Q1. And we want to look up Q1 across our entire data top because we want to know which column number of our entire array we want to return. And we want an exact match. And then the last argument of our VLOOKUP, again, is false because we want an exact match within our searching for Hermione. Then we can close the parentheses. We get 321. And because it's dynamic, again, we can just copy these down. So those are 4 different ways to look for data in a data set and return that data. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and have a great day.